In 2000, during the second presidential debate, George W. Bush declared that the U.S. should have a humble foreign policy, not arrogant, so that other countries of the world will respect us. He also stated that it is a mistake to use U.S. troops for a nation-building mission. After his election and inauguration in January of 2011, George Bush nominated Paul O'Neill to the post of Secretary of Treasury. O'Neill writes in his book, The Price of Loyalty, that at the first meeting of the National Security Council, the discussion focused on the need for the use of force to oust Saddam Hussein as well as planning for the aftermath. When the U.S. was attacked by the terror group Al-Qaeda on 9/11, the Bush administration determined to use this as an opportunity to plan for the forced removal of Saddam Hussein. In December of 2001, Bush met with the Army General Tommy Franks to plan the U.S. attack on Iraq. In his book, Plan of Attack, Bob Woodward reports that Bush told him that secret planning was necessary to avoid international angst and domestic speculation. Woodward also describes Vice President Dick Cheney as a powerful steamrolling force who had a fever about removing Hussein by force. In October of 2002, Congress, at the urging of the Bush administration, passed the Authorization for Use of Military Force Against Iraq Resolution of 2002. The resolution authorized President Bush to attack Iraq if Saddam Hussein refused to give up weapons of mass destruction as required by UN resolutions. It also requires Bush to report to Congress within 48 hours after beginning military actions if diplomatic efforts to enforce the UN resolutions have failed. By January of 2003, Bush made up his mind to attack Iraq militarily and had set the date as March 10th. There was at the time a first UN resolution passed after President Bush's September 12 address to the General Assembly, but the British government urged Bush to make a second presentation with the outcome of Saddam Hussein's non-compliance to be a UN resolution authorizing military intervention. Although he opposed the military option, Secretary of State Colin Powell was convinced to make a presentation on February 5th at the UN establishing that Saddam Hussein possessed WMDs. The evidence was weak, but the head of the CIA, George Tenet, declared the case to be a slam dunk. Powell insisted that Tenet be seated behind him at the UN presentation. The US and Britain failed to obtain a second resolution, but Tony Blair, the British Prime Minister, urged a delay of the Iraq invasion until March 20th, which became the official start date of the attack. At the same time, UN weapon inspectors were actively hunting for weapons in Iraq with little cooperation from Saddam Hussein and no success locating WMDs. In a memo disclosed by David Manning, Tony Blair's foreign affairs advisor, the British Prime Minister and President Bush discussed ways to provoke an incident that could lead to war. They also discussed the probability of a quick victory and that the post-war transition would be complicated but manageable. Bush predicted that it was unlikely there would be internecine warfare between the different religious and ethnic groups. Blair agreed. On March 20th, the U.S., with British, Australian, and Polish cooperation, invaded Iraq, and on April 10th, coalition forces captured Baghdad, ending the 24-year rule of Saddam Hussein. On May 1st, Bush declares major combat operations over, mission accomplished. George Bush declared mission accomplished But in reality, that war took 8 years, 8 months, 4 weeks, and 1 day for U.S. troops to be fully withdrawn from Iraq, with the so-called defeat of the Iraqi army and terrorist insurgents. Turmoil in Iraq still continues to this day with the rise of new Islamic terror organizations. Conservative estimates of violent civilian death ranges between 110,000 to 162,000 from March of 2003 to January of 2012. No WMDs were found and never have been found, and nearly 12 years and $2 trillion later, only a fool would say this was a justifiable war.